A viral TikTok challenge. 3 friends, 1 abandoned shipyard. This is the footage they left behind, and it starts. From the outside, you can't see the chaos. Only the frantic lights of a hunt. A silent ballet of terror trapped within a... There's an old saying, when you stare into the abyss stares back into you. They were about to learn what that truly meant. In a place like this, even the inanimate objects have a voice. And the ship was making its opinion on trespassers perfectly clear. The final warning carved in steel, a promise of what was to come, for those who knew how to listen. It all began, as most modern horrors do, with a scream. A harmless tremor, a digital dare whispered across the globe.
Look for the signs.
But among the noise, there was one voice that was different.
They are showing you the way
Not
to the
challenge,
truth.
but an invitation. Blackwood Shipyard. A graveyard where steel giants come to die, their skeletons rusting under the setting sun. They arrived full of the kind of reckless confidence that only youth can provide. Chasing a ghost story they found online. Every warning sign is a story of a tragedy that has already happened. A story they chose to ignore. To them, it was an adventure, a backdrop for their story. To the ship, they were simply the next chapter. The ritual required a medium, a connection to what lay sleeping. Water holds memory, and this place had plenty. They weren't the first to break the rules to get in here. The very ground was littered with the ghosts of past curiosities. Pier 7, the place the legend spoke of. A skeletal finger pointing out into the abyss. They walked on the surface, unaware of the ancient things that stirred in the cold, dark water below.
This place is giving me the creeps.
Another warning, etched by a previous player. A simple rule for a game that was anything but. This was the threshold, the moment the game would be decided. They stood before the vast, silent audience of the sea. The price of admission to the game was a secret, something personal whispered into the void. The offering was made. The contract was sealed. All that was left was to wait for a reply. The silence that followed was heavier than any sound. A stillness that felt like the world holding its breath. And then, a response. Not a whisper, but a violent metallic roar from the belly of the beast. The game had accepted their invitation. A single, pulsing red light, like a malevolent eye opening in the dark. The initial thrill of discovery was now curdling into a primal, instinctual fear. It was time to leave. But the sea always collects its debts. It had taken their secret, and in return, it offered a gift of its own. They should have run. They should have never looked back. But curiosity is an anchor, and it was pulling them deeper.
I have a bad feeling.
They stepped into a steel cathedral of decay, their small lights struggling against a darkness that felt ancient and absolute. The first sign that the laws of physics no longer applied here. A subtle movement in the still air, a quiet defiance of logic, a flicker of impossible life. A sign that the ship's dead heart was somehow, impossibly, starting to beat again. The very space around them began to warp and twist, the ship playing with their perception, turning the corridor into an endless trap. A message, not from a past visitor, but from the resident itself. A simple statement of its nature. The ship offered them a moment of false relief. A cheap trick to lower their guard before the real horror began. And then they saw,
I don't know, but it's huge.
The physical evidence of the sheer, impossible power they were facing. The ship was no longer just watching. It was actively participating, beginning to close the exits one by one.
Open the door!
The first
Let
trap
us out!
was sprung. The realization
Please,
hit them
someone
with the force of their own fists. They were locked inside. When one door closes, another one opens. But this new path didn't lead to an exit. There was no choice left, only a grim acceptance. The only way forward was to walk into the heart of the nightmare. Even the reflections in this place were wrong, showing a twisted, sinister version of the path ahead. They were crossing the final threshold, stepping from the world they knew into the belly of the beast itself. The darkness swallowed them whole. The ship had been waiting a very, very long time for new guests. The air inside was different, heavy, suffocating. It smelled of rust, salt, and something else. A dead machine, dormant for decades, briefly sparked with a malevolent energy, a twitch from the ship's nervous system. The ship was guiding them now, opening doors, inviting them to see the secrets it held in its decaying heart. The chilling discovery that they were not alone. They were following in the footsteps of something else. Every object left behind is a ghost, a silent testament to a life that ended abruptly right here. And then they found it, the monster's trophy room, a grotesque collection of past players. They were standing in the center of the web, surrounded by the silent, staring faces of the ship's victims. The game was over. The pretense was gone. This was no longer about secrets. It was about survival. The ship sealed the path behind them. There was no going back. The maze was now a hunting ground. Every soul trapped within these walls was now awake, their silent screams echoing in the rattling of the doors. In the chaos, the only path was up. A desperate climb towards the ship's brain, the captain's cabin. The ship itself began to fight them, trying to shake them loose, to cast them down into its depths. A single pulsing light, not a beacon of hope, but a hypnotic lure, drawing them towards the final confrontation. The ship warped reality again, stretching time and space to torment them, making their goal seem impossibly far. The final door, behind it lay the answers they sought, and the architect of their nightmare. The captain's cabin, the place where the ship's last human decisions were made, now a dusty, silent tomb. The logbook held the truth, scrawled in a final, frantic entry. The monster didn't come from the sea. They had read its story. They had given it their attention.
Make it stop!
And in doing so, they gave it power. The ship's inner rage was unleashed, and the sea outside answered in kind, mirroring its fury. Hunter finally revealed itself, no longer a whisper or a shadow, but a physical barrier between them and escape. The hunt began, a frantic chase through the ship's twisted guts, a maze with no exit.
I can't breathe!
The ship was rewriting its own geography in real time, erasing paths, creating impossible loops. They sought refuge, a moment to breathe, but the ship's eyes were everywhere. There was no hiding. Even in their hiding place, the entity was with them, reminding them that nothing was safe, nothing was sacred. The entity left its mark, a physical touch, a grotesque claim of ownership on its terrified victim. They fled from the tight corridors into a vast, open darkness, trading one kind of trap for another. The hunter's strategy was simple.
Look out!
Divide and conquer. Isolate one from the herd. To be chosen is to be lost. There is no escape when the hunter has you in its sights. In the face of absolute terror, the bonds of friendship snap, and the primal instinct to survive takes over. It knew exactly where they were. The silence wasn't ignorance. It was the predator enjoying the fear of its prey. They reached the open deck, but escaping the ship's interior only meant stepping into a larger cage. The ship and the storm were one entity, a singular, raging consciousness with one goal, to pull them under. The world around them was coming apart, the ship sacrificing its own body to destroy them. The sea, the origin of the curse, rose up to claim its due, its waves filled with the faces of its past victims. The bargain was fulfilled. The sea had taken a secret, and now it took a soul in return. And then there was one, the sole survivor, the final witness to the night's horror. But the ship wasn't finished. It began to break the laws of time itself, showing that even memory wasn't safe. The ship's dead voice began to speak, using the old radios to broadcast its message across the decades. And the message it sent was a chilling echo of the very first mistake, the price of the game. The truth was too much to bear. Sometimes the only response to an impossible horror is to try and shatter it. The ship seemed to be collapsing, or perhaps it was simply forcing the last player out into the open. The final cruel twist. The way back was gone. The bridge to the real world had vanished. There was only one way out, a desperate final gamble against gravity and the storm. The entity made one last attempt to claim its prize, flowing down the hull, a relentless tide of darkness. A final desperate leap of faith, a jump from a sinking hell into the unknown. And then, silence. The game seemed to be over. The monster had retreated, but had it really? The long journey back to the real world, a desperate scramble through the wreckage of the nightmare. From high above, the struggle seemed so small, so insignificant against the vast, uncaring landscape. Back through the broken fence, back to the point of entry, crossing the threshold back into reality. The night was over, the sun was rising, but escaping the darkness of the place is not the same as escaping the darkness within. The camera, the silent black box that recorded it all, now sits as the only other witness to the horror. Leaving the cursed ground behind, watching the ship disappear into the fog, like a bad dream fading with the dawn. The long road ahead, a journey away from the trauma, but the rear-view mirror is always there. The first lesson of survival: always check your six. Always look behind you, even when you think you're safe. The world looks peaceful. The sea is calm. It's easy to believe the nightmare is over. You can survive a horror, but that doesn't mean you've won. The evidence remains, waiting to be replayed. The rule of the game was clear: a secret for a secret. The price was paid the moment the whisper left his lips. But there was another message hidden in the noise. A secret the ship had shared in return. The sea had kept its promise, and now it had sent a guardian to ensure she kept hers. Never play games with things you don't understand. Never bargain with the abyss, because the price you pay